Everybody, I just switched from Visual Studio to try out JetBrains Rider, and I'm just trying to figure out how to give you a font that's a little bigger and not totally visible on the screen. So just give me a second. Okay, so last week we set up this type of like spline tunnel that you can fly in, and we played around with like if it could have branching paths and stuff. But I did a little bit of work since then. I just kind of like made a landscape actor, and I like dug out a canyon, and I changed these rings here so that they don't show up in the game. They're just like an editor preview to show you the bounds of the spline. And so now I have this loop set up. Oh, Unreal's pretty loud. Let's take that down a little bit. But yeah, now we have this little tunnel set up, and it spawns just little things to shoot, just to sort of like get an initial sense for what it's like to shoot. I've got some like initial feedback where like sometimes it's hard to hit things on the edge of the screen. Your bullets don't go as far as you kind of feel like they should go. So that's basically like where we're at. And then the next thing on the checklist that we had written about next week was to have enemy spawners. So I think that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to turn off these like orange blobs that are spawning just randomly along the canyon, and instead I'm going to make a special type of spawner where you place like a spawner like in the tunnel, and then what'll happen is whenever the camera passes by those spawners, so they go behind the camera or like just out of the view of the camera, then I'm gonna have them like spawn a bad guy who will fly up from behind you, turn around, and then just kind of like point at you and hover in front of you. So then you can like sort of dodge around and shoot them. And like maybe we won't do it where like they're just like hand placed. Like maybe just randomly a guy will come up behind you, up to like a maximum concurrent limit, like up to like 3 or 4 guys at the same time. And like, yeah, we'll have them like come ahead of you, turn around, shoot at you until you shoot them down, and then you'll just keep, at least for this test, like going around and around this loop, and instead of like blobs just coming at you, it'll be like enemies coming up behind you and like griefing you. So that seems like a lot for 2 hours, but I don't know, I've already got like a lot of the like plumbing done for this kind of thing, so hopefully it's not too bad. So let's go. Retrospector says it looks like you can move the reticle separate from the ship. Yeah, like when you have the gamepad, the ship is on the left stick and the cursor is on the right stick. When you're doing mouse and keyboard, the ship is on WASD and like the reticle is really just like a mouse cursor. I kind of didn't like the whole Star Fox, Panzer Dragoon, Star Wars Battlefront thing where you always have to fly directly into the thing that you're shooting. It seems like it would be more limiting in the kind of setups you can make. So. Polysaurus asks, does the game have a Newtonian-esque flight model? I mean, like, I kind of like put physics-y kind of math in there when it makes sense, but for the most part, when it comes to character control, you always kind of fake it to some degree. I'm definitely more interested in having like really reliable controls so that like if you're doing a very tight maneuver and you're skilled at the game, like for the same inputs, you basically get the same results. Going a little too physicsy can make the game kind of floppish, where like it's a little unreliable from play to play because the results are kind of squishy. So, yeah. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm just writing a new type of enemy, which is these enemy jets that come from behind you on a spline. It's the weird, long, I'll probably forget why I named it this way later name. By the way, this is one of the reasons I've been playing with trying out Rider as opposed to Visual Studio. Partly it's because I think the performance is a little better, but also it has an Unreal plugin that gives you all these hints about which blueprints are using which sort of snippets of C++ code. This is the most rough thing about changing to Rider. I don't know what the hotkeys are. I gotta look them up. another little thing. How do I convince Ryder not to indent these case labels? It's making me crazy. See, the code style here says that it shouldn't be indenting it, so why is it? Figure your stuff out. Yeah, so just to explain a little bit of the code that I'm writing right now, the way that I set up enemies in the game is that they basically have this single method that you can override called handle event, which gives you an event. And this one has like an ID and optionally a payload. And then what I'm doing in this make switch is I'm looking at the state and the event, and I'm combining them into a single numeric ID, which I can also get from this enemy event macro, which lets me basically write a big switch of like for each state, as well as like for each event within that state, right? So this is like when I enter the turnaround state, or when I'm updating the turnaround state. And then when, I'm updating, then I can check like event.update.delta time. Like some of those events have special parameters associated with them. The enter event, for instance, lets me know what my previous state was that I'm coming from. And this is all just like really nice, like it's like pretty fast. You don't have to have separate like virtual functions for every single thing. Like, when I'm entering, updating, exiting, there's also like, I think like taking damage, right? Yeah, when I take damage or when the play ended. So, and I can always like add more events, and like anybody who isn't like explicitly handling those events, they'll just call this super method, which is just saying, well, do the default thing that all enemies do with that event, which is pretty nice. And then you can see all of these are returning like an integer, and that's basically because in any event, including even like an enter event, I can always say like return enemy state, like crashing. This is how I would like leave the current state and enter the crashing state, which is nice because it like finishes fully resolving the event, then it updates the state, then it recalls the event with the new state, just like sort of automatically. So it handles a lot of like annoying edge cases with state machines with like relatively little code. For most of the like enemy AI kind of stuff, I like doing it in C++ rather than in Blueprint, just because it's faster and I want to be able to spawn like 100 of these guys, and so that would like really bog things down if it wasn't written in native code. Sorry for the moment, I'm trying to remind myself how my enemy spawner system works. I think my enemy spawner here is like pretty much mostly designed for enemies you just like place in a specific location. I might want to like at some point fork a base class out of this for like more freeform types of spawning. Yeah, I'm just gonna sort of hack it for now and not use my built-in spawning system, but with the proviso that I'll go back later and like add a proper spawner. Or like, I'm gonna have like 2 types of spawners and then I'll like factor a base class out from one and then rebase the other on it so they have a shared like parent. But for now, I'm just gonna have it do its own thing so I'm not bogged down in object-oriented stuff. That's all. That stuff's all important. It's just important for maintainability, not for adding new stuff. It's for like making sure you don't get a whole bunch of bugs later. When you do get bugs, they're easy to fix, which isn't the problem we're solving right now. just to walk through what I've done so far, every tick this spawner is going to look, and it's going to be like, if I don't know what I'm spawning early out, if I don't have a spline or the spline doesn't contain any like player fighters early out, if I've already spawned like my maximum squad size, then I should bail. Otherwise, I do this check, which is like, oh, okay, if I don't know the last time I spawned, then set the deadline for the next spawn at like 5 seconds after whenever the last pawn entered. And then we check like, oh, if my deadline's still in the future, I should bail. Otherwise, hey, look at, actually, yeah, I should call this like deadline. So like, yeah, if my deadline's in the future, bail. Otherwise, hey, guess what? We're actually spawning something. So up here, I don't know how many of these parameters I'm going to need. I'm just saving them all. But pawn distance is your like distance along the rail. Your anchor is like the transform like on the rail that's closest to the player. And the direction is whether the player is going forward or backward. And so now I'm trying to figure out a transformation or a location in space to spawn this jet at. So we're going to spawn the jet of this class in this spawn transform. TX is just my like shorthand for transform. Yeah, so what I was doing here is I took the distance of the spawn, I like subtracted off an offset from it, I got a transform. If the pawn is going around the spline backwards, I flipped it around. I picked like a random 2D point within the like plane of the spline. And then basically I cast like a ray out from the spline to that point. And if I hit something, then I just set the location to that hit. Otherwise, I set it all the way out to the target. That way we basically picked a point along the spline, and then we picked an offset from the spline, which should be like not overlapping any collision or anything. Yeah, so this is a cool kind of little trick in Unreal. When you go to spawn a new actor, you can do this spawn deferred, in which it like stages the object without actually adding it to the scene. And then you can modify the object, and then you can say finish spawning, and that's how it actually gets added to the scene. That way this spawn function, like, it doesn't need to take any conceivable parameter that any actor like might have, especially custom actors that it doesn't know about. Instead, you can just like spawn it at a place, because all actors have to be somewhere, and then you can fill in the fields that matter before like actually saying, okay, like really begin this. Okay, so the order that things happen is this dingus should decide it wants to spawn a enemy fighter. When it goes to actually spawn the enemy, it like makes an instance. It gives it a pointer back to this spawner. The spawner is going to say like, I'm the squad. I'll also say so as a pointer back to the spawner, which will also act as like an object that tells you all the other instances in your squad. It'll tell you your distance and your direction. Oh, the squad also tells you what spline you're aligned to. There's the distance and the direction. And then there is, it resets your pose. I suppose I could do that elsewhere. Yeah, I do think I want to do that. No, I'll do that here. And then it calls finish spawning, which will call begin play, which will cause us to enter our first state. I've set our like first state to spawning. So all the spawning state says is like, hey, if I have a squad, enter the approaching state. In the approaching state, it's going to, oh yeah, this pose gets reset here. It's going to reset my pose, it's going to set my velocity. And then in the update here, I think I'm just going to do like a thing where just to test to make sure things are working, they're just going to like go forward. So pose.position plus equals pose.velocity times delta time. And then set vector location to pose.position. So if everything's working right, for this initial test, I should be flying around the spline, and then, oh, right, the last thing. After we add the instance, we need to update the deadline so that we don't spawn these too quickly. So spawn deadline, set deadline. We'll set it to like 5 seconds in the future. Oh, whoops, I spelled F name wrong. And I forgot that I renamed this to spawn transform. I should probably handle a case where the sweep doesn't just hit something, it totally fails because the spline is in collision. In which case, it should probably just totally bail on trying to spawn anything. But I'm just going to put that in as a comment. So now we need to actually make blueprints for all these new classes that we just created in native code that will be hooks for the level editor. So let's do that next. I've already got this like enemy jet mesh that I made. So I'm just going to use this for now. Okay, first moment of truth. Once I hit play, some jets should spawn behind me and then just keep flying straight in a forward direction. Let's see if that happens. Also possible it might just crash. Whee! Oh, you know what? It's not gonna, and I know why. I'm so used to doing everything with my own stuff. Unreal makes you pre-identify if an object can tick or not. So it wasn't actually updating. Because like there's like a tick list in Unreal, and it doesn't. There's like so many objects in it, it doesn't like actually adding and removing stuff from it. So you only get added to the tick list if you indicate that you can ever tick. And then instead of adding you and removing you every time your tick is enabled and disabled, it just iterates through the whole list. And if your tick is disabled, it just skips over you. That way, it doesn't. It's not a bunch of like bookkeeping constantly happening in the background. I don't see anything spawning. Let's add a breakpoint to the spawning function and see if it gets that far. Hey, we hit it. What's happening? Let's go through. Okay, actually I'm gonna restart. And I'm gonna build for debugging. That way I'll like actually be able to read all the local variables. Okay, I'm real confused now. I'm not actually seeing this spawner do anything now. But there's clearly one right here. The base type is right. What is happening? My dude. There's two of them in the world. Why are neither of them doing anything? Just make sure breakpoints in general are working. Okay, breakpoints just aren't working. Why are breakpoints not working? I don't know if this is some weird rider thing. Oh, I hit run instead of debug. That's so stupid. In Visual Studio, it's just one button. Okay, here we go. So it has a class. Wait until it goes to spawn something. There we go. Where'd that A come from? Go away. So we got spawn distance, some crazy number of centimeters. We've got the spawn direction, which is it's going forward. We've got our spawn distance, which is this one is like ends in 689. This one ends in 1. Yep, that was right. Should be 500 less, right? 189, 689, yeah. And we got a transform, and this transform certainly looks logical, right? So we get our spawn UV. We go to do our sweep. So the sweep goes out and it hits something at like about 1/3 of the way from where it wanted to go. So we set that as our new location. We spawn the instance, we went through, we finished spawning. So there should now be one of these dinguses ticking. Okay, so here we go. The spawner is not null. So then we enter the approaching state. Everything is initialized there. We come down here and now we are simply applying this logic in the approaching state, which just says like go forward. So let's pop out here and see. So there's a guy just kind of going. Why was he able to spawn in there? Oh, is he just like... Okay. Okay, so yeah, one spawned right behind us. It's like way over here, but that's fine. And then if I hit, so there's the enemy and there's me. If I hit resume, okay, the issue is that like my guy is just so much faster than them. So let's take the from behind guy. You have a target speed, right? Yeah. 5,000 is crazy. I think actually I need to turn down the player speed. Okay, yeah, the player speed's 3,000. That's maybe too fast. Yeah, I mean, maybe the approach speed, yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe the approach speed should just be calculated based on the target speed of the arena and not from a fixed value. That actually makes so much more sense. Let's do that. So now it should be flying, no matter what, twice as fast as the player. And just for testing purposes, let's make that like squad size really big. So you spawn up to a dozen of them. There's one. This guy's spawning correct. Pew. Pew. Okay, when I'm on this straightaway, I expect to see some. Pew. There's one. I'm kind of confused how they're going through the walls when... Yeah, this is so weird. Here, let's just observe it from above. Yeah, spawns from behind me. Are they all kind of going that way? Okay. Yeah, these are behaving kind of the way I expect, right? So they're spawning behind, they're just going forward, and they don't care about collision, right? So now let's make them a little smarter. So we'll have them steer along with the spline rather than just going forward. Okay, we got some guys spawning. They don't really respect collisions, so that's a thing that I gotta do next. But we're getting pretty close to the end of the stream time. So I think what I'm gonna do is, just for something fun, let's just have it spawn lots and lots of these guys, just to have something to go out with on a bang. So I moved the time between spawns to be 10 times per second. I'm gonna go into this guy, and I'm gonna say your maximum squad size is dang 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 dang. So now after a second, it should just, yeah, get tons of them. I think the longer we go, they're going to start looping around, and then there's just going to get more and more of them. Good. More. Good. Okay. And we have a flowing river. Gonna keep spawning more of them. Wonder how long it'll go. I think the music is oddly appropriate. Nothing has collision, so my bullets aren't hitting anything. Okay, I think that's a pretty good place to leave it for today. I think anything else that I add is just gonna break stuff. But yeah, this is pretty fun. So we know we can spawn them. We know we can make them like go around the loop. So I'll keep posting on Twitter. Maybe I'll do like a off-schedule stream as well, just to keep working on this. But the next step, I think, would be to get some of the collision working and to make sure they don't drift too far from the spawn, and then to have them do that state transition where when they're far enough in front of the player, they should turn around and then basically just match the player's speed so that they're always just kind of like in front of you, and then they'll start shooting at you. And then I'll also add like a hitbox to them so that you can shoot them too. So, but yeah, as always, we do this every Friday from 2 to 4 o'clock Pacific time. There's been a squirrel out on the patio, otherwise my cat would have spent more time with us today. Although he got tired, now he's just chilling. And yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Zulupus. You can follow Tiny Galactic on Twitter. That's like our studio at Tiny Galactic. Yeah, thanks for watching.